I think you know exactly why we're here. We are here for revenge. Salutations, class. No introductions necessary. You know exactly what we have to do, and I am going to make sure it happens tonight, if it kills me. But, first things first, we will be starting out with a daily run, as just getting as many of those in as quickly as possible will be our goal. Gives us a couple more weapons to unlock, which might be good. I can't remember what our other selection was. Welcome, everyone. Kayla, Broham, Siphon, Ando. Wow, that is a showing. Wonderful to see you all, especially at such an unplanned and late time. I will be looking forward to trying to do a lot more spontaneous streams in the future. Ah, and Dayjoy. Welcome, everyone. And there go the crits on our flawless. This is one reason why I try not to fight those guys unless I have a shield. The dodge in this game actually has a cooldown of about 1 second, so in the case of enemies that attack quickly and consecutively like that, you don't really have a way to hit them. I thought I said Kayla. I thought I said Kayla first. That might not have been picked up by the mic. That's a possibility. You're always welcome here, Kayla. Thank you. Playing right now and just found out that you can break the golden doors. That's actually a very common strategy at higher difficulty levels. Once you have the alienation perk, or mutations as they are called in this game, you usually get a lot of extra healing done by getting yourself cursed. We can't dodge the hitboxes on those. We gotta find something more functional as a weapon, so maybe Serenade can do that for us. Ah, that's interesting. Serenade will occupy an unused weapon slot, if we currently do not have both of them occupied. Interesting, but the Flawless is actually kind of holding us back as a weapon. Oh, right. This is a daily run. We do have access to our flask, which otherwise we'd be in a lot of trouble. Now let's see about routing as quickly as possible to that boss fight. Get this oh! We completely skipped over him. If we head forward, we should run into another teleporter, and then we can go back. After all, this should only take us a couple of minutes. Hey, no worries, Ajoy. We're not doing the Twitch integration tonight, so no obligations on your part. So, alienation is very... Oh wait, we are on the right track. So, alienation is very useful for late game, as healing becomes a lot more scarce the higher the difficulty you go. Yes, we attack in tandem with the spear here and Serenade. Let me focus on this real quick. Not that we need to, Concierge is a very easy fight. So, healing becomes a lot more scarce the further along you go in this game. And eventually, you actually have very viable healing from taking those curses and dispelling them with the alienation perk. Once you get to, I believe it is 4 BC, you absolutely do not get any flask refills whatsoever between levels, aside from the ones you can buy in those food shops. Those are your only sources of extra healing. And that one perk that enables it. For now, we'll stick with what we know best. So BC means boss cell, and that is essentially the number of New Game Plus runs you're on, which if I tilt my head over here, you can see the boss cell number just to the side of my head. The bots aren't that much of a problem, Caleb. They're a little disruptive, but they don't necessarily fill up the chat. Now, one of the biggest issues is something that I've seen happen a lot on Twitch to other VTubers, and that is bots would come in and completely drown out the chat with various derogatory remarks. The ones we find on YouTube aren't nearly as horrible. Yeah, you'll only start getting boss cells once you beat the game the first time. And it is essentially the... well, I said the New Game Plus run, but it's basically how many times you've beaten the final boss on your highest difficulty. And it goes up to 5. The game changes dramatically with every single new boss cell. There's a lot of enemies that you stop finding and get replaced with new ones. In fact, that's actually what we did last stream, was we went on a search to try to find the shield bearer enemy, which actually grows obsolete after a while. There are some enemies you don't even see at all on the earlier difficulties, such as the Ravager, which we get to once we finally beat the Queen and start on BC3. Error might mostly be waiting on inscription. After all, this is an unplanned stream, so a lot of people wouldn't have had this in their schedules for the day. I didn't even know if I was going to stream, but since I teased it so much, decided I'd carry on with it. Very. We're not necessarily going to need to get a lot of gold, are we? We can muster. What we can do here is try for a tanky build using necromancy and the flask. If we get just the right setup, we can make it to where our cooldowns are very, very quick. Hopefully, we'll be able to find a wolf trap to make that happen. Ideally, the set that I usually beat the game with is the loot gear, but then the rampart for a shield. The equipment can vary after that, but but we can't afford it. We'll find one soon enough. It's not necessarily a difficult item to come by. Well, I'm glad to see you, Kayla. I've tried not to stream on a much tighter schedule, 1, because it does take a lot of energy, and 2, I tend to succumb to a fear of missing out quite frequently, and I try to avoid inflicting that on my viewers. Of course, I missed my parry there when we had such a wonderful set to start with. That one doesn't count. That's not our first run out of the way. That's me being irresponsible. Not in the groove yet. Alright, Professor. Try this again. Who knows, we might even find a better set of starting equipment here. I like the look of this one. Ooh, that rampart shield is going to be very good, and we might even carry that to the end of the game. Now, this is my favorite shield in the game, as it enables my irresponsibility. Gives you an invincible barrier for 2.5 seconds, I believe. Ah, they nerfed it. Again. It used to be 3, then it was 2.5, and now it's just 2. Just because it's that powerful. So when we come up to a boss, we can get a parry, and then do a couple of our own swings uninterrupted. The invincibility effect does not trigger when we parry a projectile though, only melee attacks. Indeed, Rampart is wonderful. I still feel like it's the best shield. Single-handedly can enable a bunch of survival builds just because, although slow attacks work best if you have a bit of invincibility to start out with. Pairing it with as many of the shield buffing mutations as you can, and it just becomes that much more powerful. Indeed. We should have a lot more success this time, Kayla, as the last couple of streams we mostly spent trying to unlock some of the better weapons for us. And with the damage you see me inflicting there, we should have what we're looking for. No more need for silly synergistic combos. Now, we can just use weapons that are good in generally every case. Wow, 3 weapons with a star. We're not heading there just yet. We are going to look around in this direction. Find a couple more enemies to get rid of. I wonder what biomes we should go through. Balanced Blade might even be better. Oh, the curse. So, no, there's not quite an equivalent of Steve in this game. There's no destructible terrain. But I do die immediately if I take any damage while I'm cursed like this. So we'll go ahead and cautiously line up a few good parries. There's one. The Rampart shield is also incredible. Still not feeling well with the winter weather. The Rampart shield is also incredible because it enables you to be able to do attacks while cursed. With that invincibility, you will not take any damage, and so you can start out a couple of swings safely even if you're running a survival build, which usually will take a lot of damage. Hopefully a bit of sugar and caffeine should do for me. Not a lot of caffeine. Unfortunate. No. Yeah, none of these are any particularly good options. Mushroom Boy is still a liability. Especially while we have a build focusing on parries. In fact, it would actually be a better pet for a tactics type build, since he would push enemies away. We will go ahead and upgrade our broadsword because we want as much damage as possible. We will not upgrade the Rampart as we really like the effect it already has. Increases your movement speed for 5 seconds after a critical hit. Mutations. Let's go with Spite, since we might be trying to set up for a lot of parried projectiles. Don't worry about me, I'm not sick, I just basically have a frog in my throat. And I have for the past couple of days. Rest of the time, I'm feeling fine though. That's the exact same thing I do too, Siphon. I've mentioned it a couple of times on stream before that I do that so that I can unlock a colorless weapon if there's something new and special I want to try. Ooh. So what that little power-up does is it'll earn us a few extra cells for a limited time off of our next few kills. Rampart is absolutely my favorite shield because it lets me just swing wildly after we get a parry. 2. We are also approaching the ability to use the equipment sets that I normally use on my offline runs. So we should have a lot more muscle memory to use. Turing Shock here, the big earthquake stomp is one of my favorites, and one of the best ways for us to handle large crowds. You'll see how it's just handled everyone there. Parry. The assault shield is very good. Only thing you need to know about it is the only shield in the game that does not stun enemies you parry. It will interrupt them, yes, but don't immediately start an attack afterwards, as you might end up still getting hit. Look at us, we're just combing through these guys. $60 kills, and no damage taken so far yet in this run. Ah, Error, we were just talking about you. Welcome, welcome. Ah, Mr. Perry. You should know how powerful invincibility as an effect is in any game. So, getting a few seconds... Nah, we were just saying, we were just wondering where you were. Although, really... anyone's allowed to come at any time, really. I'm just positively delighted to see everyone show up even on unannounced stream. So, one reason I'm going to be doing this a lot more often is, one, you know that I stream at a very consistent time frame most of the time. Basically, I always start on the same hour, even on weekdays or whatever. I've tried a couple of different time frames, but one of the best ways to grow this channel would be if I ended up, finding a lot more times to stream. Wow, that might actually be one of the best skills in the game. I'm glad you're enjoying the watch, Kayla, as this is... And again, I'm never going to stop shilling this game. My absolute favorite game of all time. Come over here. Give me a hug. Sadly, Turing Shock does not hit any of the enemies in the air, it looks like. We will not be speccing into Poyo power, as we are not running a purple build either. You forgot what the weapon was, so use the spear that does crit. Why not? We could use a bit of passive damage. Spear that does crits when pushing enemies against the walls. I believe that one is called the War Spear. And I think you unlock that one from the guys in, the High Peak Castle. I think they should drop the blueprint. Of course, there's a number of enemies in this game that don't drop their own weapon. Oh, hold on. Got a little bit of money. We'll mostly be using that to try to buy weapons specific to our build. You see how we missed the parry there, but it didn't matter, because we had the invincibility shield from Rampart. And that little bubble also does not prevent us from scoring future parries. Ah, Leviathan, if you are present, you are summoned. Of course, I actually don't have a way to verify if you take care of the mobs from my end. The messages show up on my feed, and only when I do something about them myself do I actually see that they disappear. Welcome, Dragoon. This is basically the build I'm always trying to go for. Although preferably I'd be using the loot normally. Rhythm and Bazooki is my favorite. We are trying our best to beat the Queen on 2BC, as we've been stuck on this basically since the DLC released. One of the reasons why the Rampart is so important is you really only have to worry about the first parry out of a bunch of enemies attacking you at once. If you parry a melee hit, then you don't have to worry about a bunch of projectiles about to follow. Missed it. Oh, right. We never even brought out our mushroom boy. I do like the passive effect of this one that gives us a bit more defense against projectiles. That should do just fine. Yeah, the castle is a very, very difficult level, but you will get used to it. There were a number of challenges in this game I thought were insurmountable, but practice makes perfect, as they say. And although that is an overhyped statement, which also isn't even entirely true, there's basically a lot of opportunities to learn in this game, and a lot of ways you can get better. One of the most important things is, as long as you can get past the first boss or whatever, as long as you can get to the forge, you upgrade yourself to have better weapons overall, and I've spent so much time with this game that on my offline save, I've managed to max out the forge, so every single weapon I find is S rank already. I don't even have to pay for upgrades at that point anymore, so that lets me save the money for rerolls and any other bits of equipment I want to purchase. Ice Grenade officially replaces our Mushroom Boy, as he's still a liability. Stuck on 2BC for quite a while now. You've gotten close to beating Hand of the King with Quick Bow, but never been able to fully handle the attacks of the boss. I've actually found a lot of his attacks are surprisingly reactable. Only issue I have is making sure I parry the first one, as if I get hit by the first, I immediately go into panic and can't get the other ones. So, I can show you this after we beat the first boss. No. I guess that'll work. We'll eventually replace that one. We don't have to worry about investing in it too much. So, posture check. What's our best set here? You know, if we are going for a tonic build later, it might be good to get this started, basically. Especially since we're not really falling behind much on taking damage. Since we deal larger amounts of damage in fewer swings, No Mercy is not going to help us as much. So let's go for Blind Faith. I will go ahead and pop a flask for that. Yeah, I basically always run a shield build. I don't think I've ever actually beaten the final boss without one. I like being able to play defensively, playing reactively rather than proactively, as I tend to get irresponsible when I'm enabled to be proactive. Charging headfirst into battle and getting myself killed, essentially. It's gonna be difficult jumping up there, and since we don't know what's ahead of us, we'll have to play very cautiously. We'll get the attention of the miasma here. He will warp after us. And since we scored the parry with the rampart, we're allowed the freedom of immediately attacking twice. And we just almost died there. And we just died there. That one also doesn't count. Okay, you know what? Forget the cursed chests altogether. That's what's killed us twice. Especially since I'm talking so much here. It's probably better to skip that part. So the one shot there was because we were cursed from opening that cursed chest. Be very, very careful with those. In fact, I've tried to open those as few as possible on these runs. I do believe that's the first time in a while. That's the first time in a while that we've actually suffered a KO on that level so early in the game. And in fact, both of them were tonight while we were cursed. I never say like and subscribe because it doesn't cross my mind, and it's also... I also don't often have an indication that there's a lot of new folk in the chat. I do believe Dragoon is new though. Welcome, Dragoon. I do think I gave you the formal welcome. I don't usually say the like and subscribe though as... Well, I usually don't have an indication that we have a lot of new folks in here. I definitely do that a lot more often if I were pulling a much larger viewer base. Truth be told, that does basically net a lot more followers, as it reminds people who might not be paying enough attention. I'll start doing that once we're cracking, say, 20 regular viewers or whatever. But as it stands, mostly just being comfy for such a small classroom. You know, that Oyo power would actually have been a better idea than Face Flask. I really want to get out to trying a Face Flask build. What we can do is, eventually we get a lifesteal ability for Brutality build, but that is only dropped by an enemy from 3 BC or onward. After that, I really want to try Berserker builds with the Spite Sword and Face Flask. Despite my otherwise relaxed vibes, there's a lot of games in which I like to play loud and destructive. In the times that I did play Overwatch, I was mostly a Reinhardt main, and for the time that it was meta, it was basically the entire team's idea to nano boost me. And then with my increased move speed and damage, I just raid boss runs and smacks down everyone. There's actually a few cases where the cudgel is better than an ice shield. The stun effect from a cudgel is not invalidated whenever you attack someone afterwards. Although I think punishment is a better shield overall, and I like the bonus damage on parry, but just to be a little bit creative, let's see if we can do ourselves a backpack build. Do we want the stun or the damage? ice shards. I believe that's not Frost Blast. In fact, that actually used to be one of the best weapons in the game. I think it is still very viable. It is best when paired with something that synergizes with it. But it used to be one of the meta builds was pairing ice shards with a survival weapon. It's not really all that good on a tactics build unless you have an oil grenade. But if you're running a survival build, it is incredibly powerful. Especially if you have a weapon with bonus damage versus a slowed down target. Let's not go through that biome. Actually, on second thought, let's do. That sends us into the... not the corrupted prison, but the deep prison? I forget what it's called. That biome's a lot easier to handle as it doesn't have the target dummies, or the birds, or the miasma enemies. In fact, it has some of the most easy to deal with enemies for a survival build in the game, since we can parry just about everyone in there reliably. In fact, 2 away. Alright, once we have that, I will demonstrate to you just how powerful it is. Ice Shield is equally viable. There used to be a gimmick with, what do they call it? Dual bind builds, where you would put your primary and secondary weapon both bound to the same button. For some reason, I seem to have that effect taking place right now between my triggers. Like, there's been a number of times I've hit the left trigger, and it does both my left and right trigger items. See if we can reset that. Actually, yeah. Default settings, and I will... Yeah, not gonna test it right now since it's a face flask, but there's been a number of times I've accidentally used 2 separate weapons simultaneously. So, the meta for a time was using the giant killer weapon, the weapon that deals bonus damage versus bosses and elite enemies, and pairing that on a dual bind build with ice shards. So what that does is it basically... You'll see that you can do a lot of things with... Yeah, they did patch out double binding, but it was the meta for a while. I think there was actually a setting to enable it, too. To re-enable it. I think with enough mechanical skill you can basically still do it, as... Hold on. Not enough of a way for me to test it there. But... with the way you can do a lot of things interrupting in this game, you can probably still interrupt the recovery of ice shards with using a weapon. So you can probably still do this, it just requires a lot more mechanical skill. But the ice shards would come out, slow down your enemy, and that would allow you to do basically the first 3 attacks in the sequence generally pretty free. So you wouldn't have to worry about retaliation while you get to the larger damage of the giant killer. If you had frostbite and bonus damage versus a slowed down target, you'd crank out a lot of DPS with that build. In fact, I think that's the one I actually beat 4 BC with. Just because having that much damage versus the bosses, which are the parts that I generally have more trouble with, lets you preserve a lot more flasks. Best weapon in the game, here we go. What's your favorite weapon in the game as of now? Well, I just answered that question. And I don't think that's ever going to change. The huge damage and area of effect that you get off of loot here is irreplaceable. It can even trivialize a couple of boss fights. The giant, funny enough, is made very easy when you can hit both of his fists simultaneously. And what I want to do is get a Rampart Shield to pair with that. If you have the Rampart Shield, then you're able to do the first 2 swings free, and get to that juicy third one, which has the huge hitbox on it. Best final boss you ever fought? The you have ever fought question definitely narrows it down. Otherwise, I'd say the final boss in Metal Gear Rising would be my favorite, though I still haven't played Metal Gear Rising. That game's old enough to have everything spoiled for me, though, so... We'll eventually get to a playthrough of that, since that is an unforgettable and hilarious game. I'm planning on doing that as a celebration for a really, really big milestone. Best final boss I have fought. I wouldn't say in this game, as while the boss fights are great, the overall experience is what keeps me coming back. Boss fights are not immaculate. I'll have to think about that. Let me look through my Steam library. I might be able to see something in here. Yeah, I will definitely need a lot more time to think about the answer to that question. Though if I had to choose off of what I remember right off the bat... Looking through my Steam library here, I definitely liked the final boss for Dark Souls 3. And that answer still stands if you're talking about with DLC or without. A lot of other bosses that I fought in a number of other games feel like they pull out too many surprises on you. I am very fond of what is called the Final Exam boss, which is basically a boss that gives you very obvious tells to practice every skill you've learned up to that point. And I feel like Dark Souls 3 handled that better than a bunch of other ones did. In contrast with, say, Dark Souls 1, where the boss was unusually quick, but unlike basically every other boss in the game, you could parry him. So, to win against him, you could just cheese him. I like a boss that challenges you to mix things up, but generally gives you a very good tell on what you're supposed to do. I'd also have to think about a lot of fighting game bosses, as I play a lot of them, and I want to think about a final boss in a fighting game that isn't just horribly cheap, or cheating, or unfair and unfun. As for the Pure Nail, I haven't yet gotten accustomed to it. I feel like I could make good use of it if I practice my timing. After all, me using the loot here, I can appreciate a weapon that does require you to know your timing. But in a lot of cases, I found myself trying to chain together jumps with it, and not ending up with as much performance as I would have liked. It feels like you drop down very quickly after a few swings, which I think might be necessary. When it first came out, it made a bunch of bosses trivial, as a lot of enemies in the game don't have a method to attack you if you are directly above them. And since using the Pure Nail allows you to stick in the air for an extended period of time, you're basically out of your enemy's attack range for 75% of the fight. One thing I haven't been doing enough on these runs is reading through the lore, so when we come across a lot of these rooms, we can get a bit of story included. It seems like these infected ones were trapped in the trunk. Makes you wonder who the sick one was in the story. The skull of a giant crow mixed in with various bits of mushed and mashed organs, entrails, and local roots. Connected to the bark of an old red giant tree. The perfect evil wizard starter kit. I don't know if this one has any explanation with what else is going on. Anything Halo related. I'm going to restrict my answer to final bosses as... Yeah, let's go to Lurk Shock. No, sell that face mask. I would consider a boss to be a fight, so that really only leaves us Halos 2 and Infinite, right? I can't remember if 5 ended with a boss fight. 4 was more of a quick-time event than anything else, and a boss fight probably wouldn't count for the Warthog runs of 1 and 3. I looked away at my chat because I thought I KO'd it. Pay more attention, Xander. That's the only way you're going to actually win this. You're 40 minutes in. You should have gotten to the pirate ship by now. You just attack upwards because it crits and hits on the sides of you. Also, it's really easy to one-shot beginner enemies. You'll find that less applicable in time as enemies get harder to KO the further you go along. That right there is probably the biggest reason I love the loot so much. We didn't have to worry about that fight at all. I haven't yet tried out the bone. One of these days, we're going to do a brutality build, and I'm going to see what all the hype is about. Personally, you love your nail as a weapon. I think I'd actually get used to it in time. I just need a bit more practice with getting the proper bounces with it. You can also count on a Hollow Knight stream happening sometime this year. So I might get a bit more biased towards appreciating that weapon more personally. We are at almost full health. Let's go back and pick up this little kebab on the side here. Prison Depths. That's what it was called. I'm going to have to occasionally do that as... I wonder if there's a really bad case of pollen happening right now. That might be why my throat keeps having a few issues here and there. Loading screen, take a drink. So, until we find another rampart, I'm going to show you what makes the ice shards tick. We're not worried about the mirror yet. We're mostly worried about new unlocks. And oh, wait. We definitely need to invest in the explosive crossbow soon. That is a wonderful weapon. So it's a great bow. Honestly, kind of boring. We will keep the punishment as... The area of effect damage on that one is basically unforgettable. Looks like we can still interrupt that first attack. It used to be that you could basically keep mashing them both simultaneously, and you'd be able to keep doing attacks. It might not work specifically with the loot though. but we will still get a little bit of ice damage out there first. And we will pair that with Frostbite. Ideally, we want bonus damage versus a slowed down target. Again, no. And we've run out of money looking for it. I went back and replayed 4 when it was released. Wasn't that about a... I feel like that would have been about a year ago. Rice Raid, I should set up my notifications. Welcome, Unfried Rice. We are currently getting very angry at this Dead Cells run. So glad to see you, though. Welcome. I like the grappling hook, but it probably doesn't work very well with our build. We want a bit more area of effect damage, as we'll be having to get through a couple of enemies here in order to dispel our curse first. Ice shards are also very good for a survival build. Okay, there's the setup right there. You'll see that the big guy couldn't even get the chance to wind up his attack because he was slowed down. The slow on the ice shards is incredibly powerful, and if you have a way to pair it with some oil damage for crits, you become very, very scary. Aesthetically, I like Promenade of the Condemned more, but in terms of actual biomes to fight through, I think Toxic Sewers is better. But I might have a bias, as I think I remember in prior patches, it would actually basically get you more scrolls overall towards the end. And so in order to beat the game, I ended up trying to focus as much as possible on builds that, or runs that would net me the maximum amount of scrolls. Oh, would you look at that? Our amulet actually causes inflammable oil to splash on the ground, which, once this guy gets over here, does let us score crits with the ice shards. Wow, I should do this build more often. The little bit of extra DPS we get from Frostbite as well helps us score a little bit of damage while we're winding up for that second swing. But you'll see we basically have a combo that works on everyone here. And again, he can't get out his attack because of the slow effect. Wait until he turns around. And there we go. Yeah, I think the reason why the ice shards do have a niche that isn't taken completely by the ice shield is because the slowdown from them is consistently powerful. I think the actual slowdown effect from an ice shield, and don't quote me on this, I don't know for sure, the slowdown you get after they thaw out might not be quite as powerful. I remember some people getting a good chance to retaliate. Thank you, Unfried Rice. I put a lot of effort into it. Been doing the voice acting part for about a year. And the only issue we have is that we cannot parry. But when you do this much damage in this wide of an area, it's not really an issue, is it? Spider started his attack before we hit him with the ice shards, and still didn't manage to get it off. Now, the issue we have there is, if they're not slowed down by the ice shards, then we're not nearly as safe as we'd like to be. We can also usually proc a stun before they get their attack off, so as long as you can get the slowdown effect, you're good. Drat. Take that little bit of health restoration, come down here, freeze you, and start swinging. Alright, this build looks promising. We will be swapping it out for a rampart whenever we... Oh, I thought I spoke of the devil again. I was worried that we'd immediately find one. I like the set we have here as what we have with the ice shards. Ah, they did change the animation for them. Well then. Used to be that you would throw out 3 of them and they'd all individually explode rather than getting the 3 explosions along the ground. That's different. We'll still pass on the grenade as our earthquake skill here will generally be able to do all that we want off. Oh, well, hello there. Now you're thinking with portals. So before we end this biome, I think we'll want to go on to the easier route. Let's just head into the ossuary as that's one of the easiest biomes in the game. That's a direct upgrade to our existing amulet. We will take that. Still going to have to keep doing that. Wait, I still have this up here, don't I? Yep, it's the winter. You can actually just duck under those, you don't have to roll. And for the longest time, I thought you couldn't roll through those saw blades, but maybe I didn't ever time it perfectly. Oh, wow! We still dodged the mace. I think the cards might work best with a specific strategy. What it looks like is you can throw out an extra set of cards if you interrupt your combo. It's basically a whole set play tool. You want to throw out a bunch of cards, and then recall them all back at once for higher damage. I think it is a weapon with a lot of potential, but you'll need to think about your placement when you use it. We are not going Morris of the Banished, that level is ridiculously difficult. Easy mode it is, since we are mostly just trying to get to the final boss here. What do you want? I thought I kicked you out of the room. Okay, fine. Since... Come here. Come here. I said come here. So, since we're not currently focusing, adjust the mic there a bit. Since we're not using the fight pad in the lap, instead my lap shall be occupied by the everyone's favorite little streamer cat reveal at 10k subs. Get me there. Okay, here you go. Like and subscribe or follow if you're on Twitch. There. I will promise my return as a reward. 3 vids in a row he came in. He's actually usually in my room when I'm streaming, and he also does not want to cuddle, so never mind then. He's actually here very frequently. I just try my best to ignore him. Skip that. We're not interested in the outfits until we basically unlocked every weapon. Assault shield is a no for now. Let's get the heavy crossbow up close, and are there any other weapons I want? Scythe Claw's fun, let's get focused on that. Posture check, we're in a loading screen. Can't upgrade anything worthwhile, so... Well, for one, rotate the mic back to facing me again. Now, What else do we want? Let's go for Heart of Ice to combine with our Wolf Trap, as that basically can create a cycle that feeds in on itself, and you end up being able to easily stun lock a lot of harder enemies in the game. Wolf Trap still hasn't been nerfed after all this time, which it has always remained one of the best possible weapons. Rooting on demand. That's one of the other reasons I appreciate the loot so much, as if you start strumming, you can basically be prepared for a lot of enemies coming up to attack you. You'll see that that bomber enemy decided to make his way here, but we were prepared for him. Fine, Kayla, I'll start muting myself. Oh, right. So here's an interesting gimmick for all of you survival mains out there. Your amulets will often come out with an effect that says, say, downward smash attacks do whatever. Those actually combine with Telluric Shock. Oh, which I wanted to demonstrate, but forgot I was on cooldown. Okay, do it. You'll see the ground is on fire now, which is not listed on the Telluric Shock item. It's listed on the amulet. That essentially counts as another ground setting path. See, there we cause fires, but we'll do the same if we use the skill here. One important reason that works for us so well is because we have the ice shards, which deal critical damage to enemies covered in oil or in water. It's not much of a damage increase, but every little bit helps. Pardon me, Kayla, I will mute myself this time. Ah, there we go. Take a look inside this door here. The katana is one of my favorites too, and it used to be so much more powerful, as I believe its recovery frames used to be completely invincible. So against a bunch of bosses you could literally run up and mash buttons, and still beat them just fine. Perfect. Just what I was looking for. I think that leaves us with all the backpack skills. A message left in the storeroom. What? Soldiers leaving little notes for each other? The bodies are piling up endlessly. Burning them is no longer good enough. Some got back up, and others even managed to get their hands on weapons. We have to leave this island while we still can. Give him 1-2 on the stop there. Our loot's falling behind a little bit on the damage, so we will want to see if we can find another one very soon. Telluric Shock is also good for the ossuary, as it lets you hit the spiny enemies without worrying about retaliation. What a thrill, basically. Dodge roll that and set up. Darn, I was hoping we could have hit it. We definitely need to focus on the ice shards more, just to make sure we can get... There we go. It is an integral part of a build, let's One, remember that we have them, so focus a bit less on trying to wait for a parry every time. In fact, I'm going to look you right in the eyes as I sell the ice shield. That's right, we're gonna be skipping that. Although we will definitely get a rampart if one of those shows up instead. And to this date, we still have not yet been forced to choose a tactics point, which it will come up. There's always a few of those guaranteed scrolls. Ooh. If we had a legendary Telluric Shock, we could use two of them simultaneously. I don't think we would have hit him, so thank you to whatever or whoever interrupted his attack. Please you. Dodge roll through that, ice, and whack him. Is there a weapon that inflicts crits on slowed down enemies? I can't remember right off the bat. Guardian Scroll again. Every opportunity we have to invest in survival, we're going to take. Damage is king. And so are the boys in chat. You're all kings. And queens. And in-betweens. Alright, looks promising for now. Hopefully we can get something with bonus damage versus a slowed down target. And we might even be able to skip using the rampart. We'll have to see how this does versus a boss first before anything else. Although this basically lets us cut down on, say, 50% of a boss's HP without worrying about getting hit. We might not need a shield. Now, one thing I still haven't yet confirmed is the Armadillo pack, if it copies the special effects of whatever shield you use. What I'd like to see is if we can pair that with a rampart and get invincibility upon successfully parrying an attack from a dodge. Otherwise, Armadillo pack is kind of redundant. I love cats too, kid. I am definitely a cat person. How are we doing this one? Let's try going in from the other side here. And we can hit him from that distance. Good enough. Alright, there's the boss room. We have not yet cleared out the entire level, so let's get on to doing that. There's probably still a scroll or two hidden around somewhere. There's also a guaranteed cursed chest, but we will be skipping that as we're basically halfway through the run. Ah, 60 KOs. So that opens us up the chance to find a better weapon. Hopefully something on the build we're already using. That's where the cursed chest would be. There is one more scroll over here. Every time I look at chat, Fine. I'll take the healing. You know, you'd think you'd be safe in a long hallway like that. This isn't a horror game after all, so long hallways shouldn't be damaging us. At least we already got the 60 kills. Maybe a good drink will help. That's what I'm counting on. Hop in on that guy and do the same over here. Alright, I think that's every relevant enemy cleared out. Let's go ahead and check out that shop one last time before we leave here. Slow you down, get a couple of swings. Ah, right, you didn't have to be over here, you were heading up to the shop. But we have paid for a lot of stat rerolls. It might be good to stock up on some money, especially as we get further along in the game. I want to make sure we have everything available to us. Significantly more damage, but the poison there is really why I'm picking it. That also helps with the ice shards, since they deal extra damage to a poison target. Just everything for a little bit of extra burst DPS. That is everything relevant, so let's get on to the boss fight. The War Spear is good for biomes, but not really relevant for boss fights, unfortunately. That actually might be very viable on a backpack build, which swaps out to a boss-specific weapon. But Actually, yeah, now I think about it. It might actually be very viable if you have the backpack unlocked. That way you can swap out one weapon to keep in reserve for when you're going to biomes versus bosses. The War Spear's crit condition and slow attack speed basically make it useless for a lot of boss fights. Alright, everything together. Guess we're doing a poison build now. Ah, there was one more food item we could have grabbed while we were there. Siphon, one of the reasons I brand myself as a professor or teacher is because I love sharing that kind of knowledge. So, do you see that damage? Ah, we didn't get to perfect it. But you see the damage that the loot does. And all you have to do is time your button presses a little well. Now, imagine if we had synergistic damage buffs. No, and no. if we had, say, bonus damage versus a poison target, or a slowed down target on that loot. That was oh, wait. Okay, so it has buff damage on rooted targets. That's something that we need to pay attention to there. So we beat the boss here, Siphon. Here you get to talk to the person sitting here at the forge, and invest a few cells, which over time make it more likely that you'll find better weapons. No cells for you. Skip the mutations for now. Pick... Yeah, we'll pop a flask. And take that. So any questions you ever have at all, Siphon, I'm happy to answer. This is my favorite game, and I love to teach about it as much as I can. Oh, right, loading screen. Take a drink. Right, I don't have a shield. At least that was the first enemy, and we didn't lose a kill streak from that. Now, we have to be a lot more careful here because of all the spinning traps. Huh, I was wondering if there could have been a secret up there. So, a lot of the previous levels we were able to encounter, or deal with small groups of enemies. Here we basically have a really big platforming challenge. Not much ground to stand on, so Telluric Shock is going to be a little bit weaker. But the biggest problem is the traps and the bombardiers, which are very easy to parry, but we have a problem if we don't have a shield. Luckily, whenever we get to the rooms like this, though, we should have a much easier time. That one is going to be the food store, which we are not interested in just yet. And then second, we should basically always come up to a room with a cursed chest. Dodge one thing and get hit by another. Maybe I will want that shield back. But that's what we have the backpack for. Nope, get out of my way. Take a breather. And you know what? In this case, we will go back and buy ourselves a bit of health. We're not gonna try to use the flask just yet. But for some reason, the birds are glitched. We might have to just wait and teleport back there instead. Fine. Better to play cautiously than anything else. Which we were basically guaranteed damage there anyway, since... I wonder if anyone has reported that bug. We still have the birds here being a problem. Should you get melee since you get frostbite? So, frostbite and melee scale with different stats, and so it's a bit hard to abuse both of them. But the slow effect from frostbite is still useful on survival mode regardless. They won't synergize nearly as much as you would like, but there are builds that make good use of both of those effects. The extra damage from punishment should be able to hit those stray birds flying around. Fine. I'll come up over here, and what is with those birds? Maybe we should avoid this biome in the future, but the reason I'm here is because of that guaranteed legendary weapon. Hopefully something good to replace our primary weapon, which is now falling a little bit behind. We will neglect to pick up a new one until we know what legendary selection we have. Which should be from this fight right here. What do you want? I think the cat's around. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our selection. No questions asked. I know what I'm taking. Oh, right. This was the one we just set then. So, we don't care about what other weapons we get then. We might be able to even take this one to the end of the game. First things first, the cat wants to be let out of the room, so let me take care of that real quick. Here you go. Ah, and so we return. In fact, that would actually be an excellent choice alongside the slow effect of the ice shards. See what we can combine with it. And we cannot let anything be a problem for us after this, so we really need to be careful and still use those flasks. Still taking damage. You know, I think we might just want to try to speed to the end once we have all the relevant scrolls. But getting the scrolls here now makes it easier later, so we will not be skipping any of them. But play a little patiently. I said patiently. Don't know why this one's giving us so much trouble this time. Come over here. I think most importantly is, as long as we have a lot of extra health, we should be fine. This will unlock another item for us. We will be taking this challenge. But this time, we'll make sure to clear out every other enemy first before we head down here. One, two, three, and there we go. I think that came in at just the perfect time that we needed it. So, now we basically get to put together the build I was looking for before. Only thing we're missing now is a rampart shield. They didn't lie when they said the Queen's temples were full of treasures waiting to be taken. Though they could have mentioned the wardens. Which are the big axe guys sitting out front. So the good news here is the tonic will help us tank a lot of damage for the remainder of this level. We also have a very easy way to refresh its cooldown as much as possible. There. The guaranteed stun effect from the Rhythm and Mizuki is also very incredible for us. We'll use that in conjunction with the rooting effect. So together, we basically have a lot of cooldown reduction on all of our skills. Be very careful about standing too close to an enemy when you parry them, as there's always the off chance that you'll end up slipping behind them as they attack. Usually if they have an attack that moves forward. There should be a skills shop in here, I believe. None of them are really better than what we had. We might be redoing our build as well. Something that focuses more on the shields or taking damage. Missed, of course. What has gotten into those birds? Pardon me again. I'm not that sick, mind you, I just have something caught in my throat. That's going to be way better than the punishment shield, even if it doesn't come with area of effect that we'd like. Overall, looks pretty safe. Let's proceed. Explorer's Instinct, just what we wanted. The stun effect on that Rhythm and Mizuki will not let us stun lock enemies, but will basically let us interrupt any big attacks from a lot of people that we're trying to fight. That health there was a godsend. We might actually take gastronomy. Yes, you should always explore biome to the fullest for scrolls. The reason for that is that when you start getting towards the end of the game, you'll find that all that extra damage makes the boss fights a lot easier. In fact, if I was a bit more responsible and if I was playing offline rather than streaming, I'd be going for every cursed chest imaginable, as the reason that, and I'll be able to show you better once we find our next scroll, the reason you want to take them as much as possible is because every scroll expands your damage, what's the word? It's not quite quadratically. It might, I think exponentially or even geometrically might be working. Basically, let's see if we have any other scrolls around here. Nope, we picked up all of them in this level. So, the damage buffs you get from scrolls stack multiplicatively. So, say you have two, say you're starting out. You pick up one scroll, apply it to your main stat, you get a 15% damage bonus there. You find your second scroll, and you get another 15% damage bonus. Now, that's not a 130% damage bonus. they stack multiplicatively. So it would be an extra 15%, and then the second one is 15%, an extra 15% of the 115% you have. So basically, let me grab my calculator real quick. Ha! Should I put that on stream? You know what? Might as well for the demonstration. Capture specific window. Are you gonna show? You should be showing on screen, right? It's not showing my calculator. Oh, wait a minute. Come on, I have a chance to make a demonstration. I get to show as much of how I love math as possible. Okay, for some reason that's only showing as a small window in the corner? That's bizarre. Guess that's not going to work then. I'll just do the math here then. So, say you start with one scroll, that's 1.15. When you get the next scroll, it's an extra 15% damage multiplicatively. So it's 1.15 times 1.15, not plus another 0.15. Multiplying that together, that's overall 1.32, slightly bigger, but it makes a huge difference at the end. So let's say 10 scrolls. 0.15 times 10 would be 1.5. If they stacked additively, you'd have a 2.5 times damage after 10 scrolls. Decent, but not too much. The actual damage buff you get after 10 scrolls will be 1.15 to the power of... graphing, there we go. 1.15 to the power of 10, which ultimately comes out to slightly bigger than 4, which multiplying your damage by 2.5 versus multiplying it by 4 is pretty significant. So let's say you go through a run and you miss 5 scrolls. 1.15 to the power of 5. Well, that's almost 2. If you miss 5 scrolls throughout your run, you are only doing half as much of the damage that you could be. So you want to find every scroll because they count that much. Only reason I'm not going for the cursed chest is how easily I get distracted on a stream, and therefore how easily I can die from it. You've seen how many careless moments I've taken damage so far. We'll go for the easier boss and the clock tower rather than the gardener here. Although we did pick up a spiked shield, that would probably have been better versus the scarecrow. Let's see, we already unlocked gastronomy. Nothing else we're immediately wanting, so back to the perks it is, basically. More damage. I don't think we need to change that at all. We will reset our mutations though, since we're not focusing on freezing as much. We will take gastronomy. Heart of Ice, necessary. And you know what? We might even take... Let's take disengagement for now, even though we shouldn't be getting into too low of health too soon. What's in here? This was off to... Forgotten Sepulchre, which ended one of our previous runs, so we're not going to do that. The cursed chests are absolutely worth it, and you will basically need them on the hardest difficulties. Once you get up to BC 4 and 5, you'll want to take them every single time. Of which I will be doing that every single time once we get up there. So, we have a stun effect from our loot here, which will trigger the Heart of Ice effect that we're wanting, basically. Actually, no. I don't think it attacks quickly enough to count. We will test that hypothesis before we decide between the Crusher or the Wolf Trap. I am in BC 2, let me... Oh, wait, hold on. Let's see, pop that. 1 second, I'm testing something. Reflect that back, wait for it to go on cooldown, and see if a couple of weapon stacks... No, that does not speed it up, so we will keep the Wolf Trap. But, Xander's head out of the way. You can see there is a 2 right there next to what, run I'm on. Skip the Crusher then. In fact, some of the important HUD elements are usually hidden behind my face, but it's the mini-map back there. I don't think you need to see that too much. I'm kind of regretting getting rid of the Telluric Shock now. That probably would have been better for these rounds. Way better. Another legendary weapon shows. And I guess it's good we got the disengagement then. What's that? It's a spike shield. So, we have exactly the build we were looking for. We're not worried about that damage, not while we are buffed up. So you can parry the bomb, and immediately he's open to attacking you afterwards. So you have to parry the bomb, and immediately parry up the follow-up attack. So, let's play Guilty Gear. I'm going to start that up in the background and plug in. So I'm gonna plug in the fight pad, and we'll do that. It's honestly really, really fun. You won't believe me, but I'm way better at this game than it might look. Actually, you know what? While I plug that in, I'm going to let Xander not have an existential crisis looking directly at you. All right. Let me boot up Guilty Gear. And send out a couple of social media messages. Since we're running sets now. it's it's funny. It really is just funny. Pop into that loading screen. Get everything ready. All right, I need to change my Twitch category. And all is adjusted. So, first things first, do a little bit of warm up with our bread and butters every single time. Who have I been having trouble with? I guess it's not really gonna matter. Most of the combos in this game are relatively universal. A couple of them don't work on heavyweights. Man, we had my favorite weapon, legendary, and one of my favorite shields, also legendary. But I just need to get used to streaming that game and not letting myself get distracted. Alright, so first things first. Reset ourselves back to neutral. And it looks like I'm landing it pretty reliably. Mid-screen punish. The usual typical one. Ah, that one will still need some work. Corner B and B, we're not too concerned with the super follow-up, but we could probably work on doing the supers more reliably in the future. It's generally pretty easy to do one spin on the mix box, but multiples might be a bit harder. Like so. So we're mostly going to focus on doing a single 1080, which is super easy. It's actually easier on a mix box than it is on a gamepad, which I normally used. Alright, need to do the bread and butter in this direction. Works there too. Now, one thing we were dropping a lot last time was the throw follow-up. That's if we get enough damage or if we're close to KOing off of a throw in the corner. One thing we can just generally work on all the time is safe jumps. So that one was too early. That one was too late. And that one was perfect. Well, we'll just need more actual practice in a game. Anyone in the chat, let me know if you'd like to run some friendlies. Otherwise, I think I can head right into the tower. Nah, it's Saturday night. Let's hit a park. That way we can both fight people who are showing up here on Twitch, or have some good fights with some other fellows around here. Welcome. I will be here in USA West Coast number 2. Anyone looking for a match? Doesn't look like it. Ah, Bramlethal, we need some practice. We need some practice. Floor 5, maybe not. Failed to match with opponent. Alright, I'll go back. Still failing. Are you ready? Very well, let's go. So, someone's still starting out. The Forgotten Sepulchre is the medium difficulty for the 4th level. That one you generally have to avoid a lot of darkness while going forward. That's the one with all the lamps. You've seen me do it once or twice on stream. This will at least let me see what I can do versus a mashy Ramlethal. Fine, you can have the round. Alright. So, okay, so very mashy. Indeed, we'll just work on nothing but frame traps the entire time. Clock Tower is the easiest of the levels in that area. It's definitely harder, but it's not as hard as the cavern. Don't mash. Don't mash. Ah, so that's an interesting little bit of counterplay. Mr. President, hello. Let's try to remember that one for the future. I'd be down for a few, but yeah, I'm sorry. Zeros, welcome! Well, yeah, Gold Lewis has some of the best frame traps in the game and some of the most punishing, so... Normally I try to count on people knowing the matchup and playing a bit more defensively. By the way, Zeros, if you'd like to go for a couple of friendlies, I'm here on West Coast number 2, if you want to get in a couple of matches. So I usually rely off of people having a bit more respect for Gold Lewis's pressure. That's why I'll try to give myself a little bit more time to get back in. Also, let me know if East Coast works for you better, Zeros, although I feel like the matches here should be P2P, peer-to-peer. Region shouldn't really conflict with that very much. So yeah, the reason why we perfected so easily once we... Ah, there's the boy himself. Everyone, this is Zeros. He is, to date, the only VTuber... Yeah, the only VTuber I actually met on ladder before I met in the VFGC. Yeah, if you're locked into their siphon, you're gonna have to go through there. But if you haven't been through the Sepulchre yet, you do find the Explorer's Rune there, so it's a very good idea to go through there if you have all the movement runes unlocked. I think that's the last rune you have to look for. Aside from Homunculus, which you get from beating the game the first time. Don't you dare fire slash me at round start. Attaboy. Just as I remember. Man's got no respect. Very well, Zeros. What do you mean that's not enough? Yeah, this guy is nuts. He just ran up and command grabbed me. He's even using Kai's theme, just to confuse me even more. Your option selecting your command grab, you fiend. Alright, loosen up. I gotta get my warm-ups, cause I can't be beaten down this easily. I miss this. I miss fighting people that are actually good. The tower doesn't have that many good players on it. Yes, how very soul bad guy of you. You're also FDing my pressure, so you know how to do this. Did we get him? Not quite. You've gotten better, Zeros, or I've gotten worse since I'm using a new controller. Oh, that should have been a BT. Hello, Rez. We're doing some strive sets if you'd like to get them in. Zeros is currently reminding me why he's level 840. Alright, no more fooling around. I thought he'd burst. We're good, we should be good. We're not good. Okay, fine. Enough of me playing like an idiot then. Really? I thought I backdashed that one. Did I just see a jab? No, you're literally putting another DP. Okay, so more cautious offense. Less button mashing because Zeros has been practicing his DPs while minus. So we'll just be a bit more cautious then. I guess I'm not doing any placements in the next tourney then. Okay, so that's a very minus setup. I'll remove that from my repertoire basically forever. Oh, that was interesting. I'm still a little sick, but doing a little bit better. How does that miss? Well, I started a BT. Still going all in, I love it. Exactly the kind of character I'd play if I ever picked up Soul. I gotta work on being better for the tourneys. Give me that gold burst, and still enough time afterwards. Give me some of that meter, babe. Wrong move. That should have been a BT. I missed this. Well, you're definitely putting the pressure on me because I'm having to remember what I'm supposed to do in this matchup. Ah, so close. There's the DP. And that was me trying to FD and somehow getting a button. So yeah, as always, looks like it's mostly just a case of me having to practice execution, as you'll see I'm kind of flailing around on screen.
Duel 1. Let's rock. UMA. Thunderbird.
Focus. Get him through there. 426. So it's mostly the bandit bringers that are getting us. We're gonna have to focus on. Well, right into the grab. I can't afford to get mad, Siphon. Mostly it's a case of me having to learn how to play this game. And again, missed my perfect punish. Okay, so mostly... yeah, you don't get angry from fighting friends. That's just generally the rule. Now that was an interaction. Ah, yes, the instant overhead. Very clever.
Stop wasting my time.
I wonder when the next GGST tournament is. Do you... Remind me, Xeris, I don't think we've spoken in a while. Are there any other games you're picking up? Or any other fighting games you're playing right now? That is the weirdest 6P in the game.
Out of my sight.
Option selecting your throws. This guy's taking all the tech he can. Okay, so we'll need a lot more defensive approaches, basically. Running up and blocking to punish the various DPs. Of course, he'll just input a Super Ball minus. Wrong button. Almost. Almost. I'm so glad we actually landed that. And a lot fewer haphazard jump dusts, as he's definitely winning those against us pretty frequently. Ah, not close enough. I knew it was going to be a throw. If only 426 was better at anti-airing. Take some lessons,
Wasting my
Broham.
time.
If there's anyone else who'd be down for some friendlies, let me know. Some multi-blood, Exorcist again. Ah! You know, I basically haven't practiced any of Actress again. I kind of want to. I wish I had more, friends that would play fighting games, but... just more of a reason for me to talk with the FGC more.
Eliminating mission obstruction.
Yeah, I'd like to play them all, but the only ones I'm actually practicing right now are mostly BlazBlue and a little bit of Strive.
Duel 1. Let's rock.
And again, the perfect read on me trying to do a wake up attack. Missing putting my BTs all day. Nice 6p.
Duel 2. Let's rock. You're going nowhere. You damn fool.
Finally. And we didn't get the perfect safe jump off of it, which is what we've been practicing all this time. And we gotta focus on those unbuffered 684s, as that was, well, me trying to do it on the ground. That's the entire reason I picked up the Mixbox, was so that I could do that input reliably. I'm willing to be here for a while, I just need to practice.
Duel 1. Let's rock.
What the hell is my cat doing? He's just messing with the door stopper. Still gotta work on doing that unbuffered. Alright, hold on, I gotta banish my cat from the room again.
Soul wins.
And resume. Yeah, he was messing with the door stopper the entire match. I don't know if that was being picked up by the mic. Note to self. Basically always input that twice.
Thunderbird!
drone goes out. Does that catch the backdash? Not quite. Ooh, got him. I was supposed to be grounded, though overall just make those inputs faster. And actually get them out as not supposed to. And again, I'm being conditioned into doing exactly that nonsense. Well, there's one reason we practice the Twitter combo, and it's for corner burst punishes like that. I guess I'm glad this isn't a first to 10, otherwise it'd be over by now.
So instead of duel 1, let's rock. Get a load of this.
Getting all the wrong BTs. Okay. If I can win one interaction, I can probably win the set. Wrong button. And there's the unbuffered BT, although that could have been buffered by the guard input. Guess it's all jumps after that. Well, getting the rune's the most important part, Scythe, and I'm glad you did. Right, I need to remember that is an instant overhead setup, so every time they do Bandit Revolver, do a standing block regardless, as we'll still have fewer frames on of block lag. Block stun or whatever it would be called. Wrong button. That's an interesting setup, though. Alright, we can definitely start doing that a lot more once we block a gunflame. That one will actually be more advantageous for us if advantageous for us if we don't FD before the gunflame. Oh, he opened the door. Unga Munga. That was FD, I swear. Okay, hold on, the cat's playing with something he shouldn't be. Give me a moment.
Wins. Duel 3. Let's rock.
Putting things in his mouth. He's like a kid. Okay, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm still streaming. I said we were gonna have to get in a little bit of practice of Strive. You can see I'm missing all of my BT inputs on this thing. Yeah, if you ever see me randomly doing a jump H, it's not intended. Guess I gotta start from square one. Welcome back, Error, by the way.
Let's rock. You're going nowhere. Get a load of this.
Send that out. RC.
Get a load of this. Son of a bitch. Slap.
Yep, it's absolutely day and night between Mixbox and the controller. I have to remember to put all my buttons on different fingers, rather than all on just my thumb, basically. And I thought I had the proper conditioning. Right there, a 684 would have handled just about anything. So, maybe it would have been better to do that instead of a 6P.
Duel 1. Let's rock. Get a load of this.
Ah, it's beaten by / under the right conditions. Wrong move. Very wrong move.
Out of my sight. Slap.
This DPs are wild, Xeros. I love them.
Duel 2. Let's rock.
Ah, that was an attempt at a 6P. Still wouldn't have hit him though. He had the delay in the air.
Get a load of this. Son of a bitch. Slap.
Almost.
Have it. Duel 3. Let's rock.
Still don't see how you can play one character for so long. As someone who enjoys learning things, if the character has a lot of stuff to learn, I basically always have something else to do with them. One thing you don't see me doing enough in this are the aerial behemoth tycoon setups like that. Ah, and that could have been a perfectly spaced 684. So, The answer to your question is... If I remember, Siphon, you were the fellow who said you play a lot of Brawlhalla, right? I usually try to play fighting games that have a lot more depth and a lot of stuff to sit down and do. For what I know about Brawlhalla, it's basically a Smash clone where you can learn any character in a day, as is expected of Smash Brothers in general. You know, that was a safe jump setup and I should have blocked. No, Broham. I will shit talk Smash Brothers for the rest of my days. Even the ironic joke of 2 days, I'm not going to do that. Unless it's melee, or 60... I said... Oh, right. That's not how I RC. So, now that I'm no longer trying to concentrate on the game, it's basically because there's so much for me to learn and focus on and practice. You get bored of something if you master it after just a small amount of time. But here, there's a lot more interactivity that you can do between them. And so there's a lot more to learn overall. What happened today? You were working so hard you didn't have the time to come. Well, you're making progress, Era, at least. And in this case, the games that we've been playing are a bit less of the games up your alley. We'll be doing Inscription on Monday, but I'm glad to hear you're getting stuff done. Missing them all so much. Almost. That's the frame trap. You can only play one character for a month. Well, the problem is that you're playing Mortal Kombat, which is also not a very difficult game. Ah, perfect frame trap. I should know to do that only after a gunflame. Wrong BT. Okay, so after the blue RC, try to jump. I have a friend who keeps pulling that trick on me, and I usually fall for that one too. Not thinking quite quickly enough. Tekken is actually a game I would unironically recommend. It's incredibly newbie friendly, but still has a lot of stuff to learn in the end. You know, I have been wanting to pick up Tekken. I have a lot of people who advertise it to me. Really, I just need to play more fighting games in general, but the entire thing behind that is I need more friends to play them. None of my friends play fighting games. Well, none of the ones I grew up with. But aww. What happened there, Zeros? That was weird. Yeah, try it again. Hold on, give me a moment.
Are you ready?
Alright. That was weird. But yeah, I definitely want to learn Tekken. Let's see, what's the list of games I want to learn? BlazBlue's first. I mean, you already know I basically learned Strive. Yeah, it's already been 2 hours. It's been a stream that's mostly gotten away from me. I'd say I already know Strive, but out of the games I'm looking to learn, first would be BlazBlue.
You done talking?
I don't even know what would be second. Shut up, Soul. You're talking too.
Duel 1. Let's rock.
Missed, just because of the wrong button input. Oh, so that's a good anti-gun flame approach. What we'll need to know is basically do a lot more just blocking approaches. I know what you're trying to set up for, Error. I am not a fan of horror games. Psychological horror, yes. Definitely not the jump scary sorts, though. I wonder if 862 would actually be a functional anti-air in a lot of matchups. Why are blind people always best with swords in shows? I think that might be a reference usually to Zatoichi, who is a character from Japanese folklore who was a blind swordsman. Or he might have been a real guy, I can't remember. But any sort of character that's that legendary is going to have some sort of myth surrounding them. The jumping grab. Okay. Well, it is true that a lot of your other senses get stronger whenever one of them goes down. Essentially, you only have so much energy that your brain can manage at a time. So that part is true, but you don't get godlike senses from... The jump grab was actually a misinput. Hey, I'd say take it when it comes. Okay, so a lot more run up and grab. That's generally the issue I'm having here. I mean, run up and block. I had a chance. I had a chance. Eri, you can keep this bit going as long as you like. I'm not going to be part of it. If there's something I still know how to do, it's burst bait. Excellent jump there, Zeros. I'm gonna lose the game because of that one. Loosen up.
What a bore.
Damn, you've gotten a lot better. Who do you play in BBCF? I'm feeling a bit better about that game, at least using Mixbox, but I still need to practice my, neutral in that one. Alright, good 684. As long as we can do that a lot more reliably, we'll be doing better in neutral against Sol here. Especially since Zeros here loves to DP so much. You like that 248 there, huh? Got the fast low.
What in tarnation?
I'm so happy every time I can do that with the side switch.
Mankind knew that they could.
Hey, I'd be glad to do BBCF anytime. I'd even do it right now. Have one of these. I'll take some of that meter, thank you.
Son of a bitch.
Thank you, Sol. I agree with the sentiment. This madman's just gonna DP all the time. And again, I just fell for the grab immediately. And stop instinctively backdashing every time that happens. Give me some of that meter, babe.
Yes, hello?
Get these bots off of my YouTube channel. I mean, they're not that bad. They only show up once. It was absolutely horrible a few months ago on Twitch, as a lot of VTubers would have people frequently showing up and just flooding the entire chat. I can still read all of your messages, everyone can still talk here. They just pop in occasionally and deliver a suspicious link. Is that the Guilty Gear missing link? There's been 3 actually. Good like my anti-airs ever so slightly. That is the weirdest 6P in the entire game. When do I play a character with a good 6P? Like Soul. Ooh, you like that one. Got the flying goldless. And a misinput, which still seemed to save me regardless. Very wonderfully done. Guess I'm finally catching up. Thank you so much for the practice, Zeros. If you want to try some BBCF, I'm definitely down for that after any one of these rounds. That goes for anyone else just as well. Luckily, I've been practicing my safe jumps. Only that was the BT. So the thing you need to know about those inputs is you're supposed to hold the final direction. And that seems to be what I'm missing most of the time. Most of the times you see me randomly throwing out a 5H. And here we go. That would have been the perfect spot for a super, but we're not concerned with practicing that. As you see, it doesn't show up as a situation very often. I was thinking, what if I actually just did 5H? Nice finisher. Beautifully done.
What a bore.
Actually, it is approaching midnight, so I'm going to say, let's go ahead and cut this off after 5 more minutes, so that might be for a few more sets. Yeah, I'm gonna take that away. I didn't know it was that late, but I'm going to retract the BBCF invitation.
Mankind knew that
About
they
5 more
were
minutes, it says here.
society. So instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts, heaven or hell. Duel 1.
This is the weirdest Kai player I've ever fought. No, when he is far away, Gunflame is plus. Got him. Ah! I was holding my breath for that entire one. The entire second half of that match. Excellent, Viper. Get back in that corner. Or not. Just waste a burst like that.
Yes. Duel 3. Let's rock.
Remember, you're only minus if you're a bitch. Really? How did that hit him? There we go.
What a bore.
I didn't have enough meter to big brain my way through that one.
Wins.
Yeah, that was wild. Ah, we got time for one more. Let's do one more, Zeros.
Duel 1. Let's rock.
Again, DP didn't have to respect anything. Just when I was finally figuring this game out. But that 862 side switching is wonderful. Actually something I picked up from the goldless guy I watch play a lot. There's one unbuffered BT in there. I even delayed my 6B. Not enough though.
Duel 3. Let's rock.
Ooh, got him. That was a very bizarre interaction right there. Wrong BT. Okay, so it's a matter of which button you're holding when the button input comes out. So, just a lot more practice. But that is all the time we have today here. Thank you very much for the sets, Zeros. Thank you everyone for spectating. I hope there was a lot of stuff to learn. If ever you want to fight Xander, just DP and neutral as much as you can. Because I'm going to spend my time attacking as much as I possibly can. GG's indeed, Zeros. I look forward to doing that as much as possible. I'd like to try to get in more of the guerrilla spontaneous streams throughout the rest of the week, and that's probably when I'll be doing a lot of fighting games. But as it stands, the stuff that's been getting me a lot more attention lately would be the indie roguelikes, so I have to play for that audience as well. But I guess that means I just get to stream both games a lot more. Gladly, I do have a lot more content that I can stream simultaneously. I was running out of ideas for most of December, but we got a bunch of good stuff coming up. Thank you, Siphon, Broham. Let's see. Yeah, Zeros. Error, if you're still here. Rez, of course. Love you too, Siphon. I love all of you. Thank you very much for your attendance. Class is dismissed. It is midnight. I'm just going to get out of here without the formalities. No stream tomorrow. I'm going to be taking a break. I did 6 days this week.